welcome as we continue to travel into the lights. For those of you joining me as a part of this online program, we're now into week 3, which is the element of the water. And so I'll share with you a bit more about what this looks like. And for those of you joining, so you understand what we're doing is we're connecting with the cycles and stages of life and how it relates to the medicine wheel and those ancient teachings, but also how it relates to the cycles of the moon, in which we are supported by this evolutionary process of transformation that's always occurring. So here now we're into week 3, and so this is the direction of the west, the elements of the water, and the stage of life of adulthood, where often we become parents. And it's also what I relate to as the mental body, becoming aware of our thoughts. So I'm going to pull things together here a bit more, and understanding in this cycle of the moon and within these 2 beginning stages of life before the 3rd stage, we are, of course, laying the foundation in connection to the earth and the physical body. From there, our needs are being met, so we're moving into week 2 to honor the heart, to honor the passions and the purpose that we bring as we receive inspiration going into this full moon. And from there, now we're riding this wave of energy as we are just passing now the full moon and continuing to ride this wave and follow our hearts and observe our minds. Are we able to be now in the flow as we're in the element of water? Are we able to ride this wave with trust? Are we able to enjoy the steps that we're taking? Or are we finding ourselves worrying, doubting, falling into fear, or simply any limiting thoughts or beliefs, any type of patterns that are coming up for us here within ourselves as we're taking these steps? So it's a great chance, firstly, to observe these patterns of our thoughts and the shadows that we're carrying and wanting to release. We're then able to not only observe them, but to feel them with compassion, to see them. So when we become aware of these shadows, we're not judging ourselves and criticizing ourselves, but observing with the love and compassion of our hearts. So we are able to hold ourselves much like we wish our parents may have held us, or ways in which we would ideally want to hold a little child. We're now having to be our own parents and observe things that maybe aren't the best, and yet having to extend compassion and patience and love towards ourselves as we observe the shadows of our own minds and maybe certain patterns that aren't serving us anymore. And we're doing this with compassion because otherwise we're judging ourselves as we become aware of our shadows and just feeding into our shadows and maybe falling further into them rather than healing these parts. So it's through our awareness and love and compassion, these things of our shadows, these parts of ourselves, are brought into the lights, which is allowing them to be transformed. Okay, so we're observing them. We're also maybe wanting to understand these parts of ourselves. Where do they come from? Where do these stories that we're carrying and limiting beliefs come from? And again, often they come from our childhood. They're often deeply ingrained in us at a young age. Before we have a chance to be more conscious and aware, often it's our relationship with our parents or the environment that we were raised in where these things are ingrained in us over and over again. And then as we grow older, we believe them. And then as we continue into adulthood, we continue to recreate these stories, we loop them in our minds, and we recreate these experiences externally and repeat them over and over to further justify our beliefs. So in doing so, of course, we feed further into the shadows and these very challenging experiences and leading to further suffering until we can bring it into the lights. And this is what we're here to do, so this is the perfect time to do it. So as we're becoming aware of the roots cause, we're able to understand, shit, maybe it comes from here, maybe it comes from there. And furthermore, bring not only the current beliefs, but go to the root cause of those beliefs, understand them maybe more clearly as adults, so they can be brought into the lights and not carried as victims to the situation, but recognize that we have the power to heal these parts of ourselves. Hopefully you can still hear with this wind that's picking up here now, as it's asking us to release furthermore. So this week is a great chance to do exactly this, to follow the flow and to see any gaps and to focus on what is it we're needing to release as we continue to follow our heart step by step, follow the inspiration that we receive. And part of what we may experience is the gap between our experience and our expectations. So maybe we feel inspired to take a step. Okay, so we go, we take that action, and we're hoping and expecting that it's going to result in a specific way. And so if this is the case, we may experience some results that might be quite different from what we hope for or expect. And therefore, we may want to just give up, or an old story, an old pattern may come in, and we may want to just go back to where we were rather than continuing forward, trusting that even if we don't experience what we expect to experience, that our ability to take that step and follow that inspiration and to express whatever needed to be expressed, to experience whatever needs to be experienced, is actually what we're wanting to do, and to do it without any expectation. Because if we're actually in faith, what we'll see is that we're inspired to take a step. We take that step without any expectation, but trusting and knowing that by taking the step, that it leads us further towards the next step, and the next step, and the next step. So we're just wanting to be into the flow of step by step, trusting and knowing that it's leading us somewhere greater than maybe what we had hoped for, what we had thought. So this is what it means to be restoring our faith, to deepen our trust, and to surrender furthermore into this trust, into this state of living and following our hearts. So it is moving further towards the fourth week, the fourth part, to our connection to spirit, the element of the air, and the final stage of life as elders. Okay, so here we continue into the lights. Thank you for joining, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you want to check out the website, if you haven't already, it is ur-magic.com, where there's more information about all of this process. And of course here, as always, at service to support as we continue into the light, because you are magic.